You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Yep, you sure are on my couch today, and welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Michelle Cohen, and as always, every Wednesday, 11 in the morning Pacific, and wherever you're at around the world viewing and listening, welcome, because I always try to bring on inspirational authors, experts, thought leaders, anybody who's going to inspire you and make you feel better. That's what we're all about here, and today is no exception. So let me just put it out there that if you'd like to get beyond doubting yourself, I mean, don't we all, right? Or questioning why your momentum is stalled, or if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, which so many of us are, my guest today will try to inspire you and help you move through these feelings. He's going to be talking about his book. It's called Real Impact, Daily Inspiration. And he's going to share with us some of the stories about how many people began from humble beginnings and limited means and nearly insurmountable obstacles to become really successful people in whatever their endeavors stirred them. So you'll recognize a lot of the profiles, but you may not know what they had to go through to become figures that we recognize to honor today, and all the impact they made on our lives. So Dennis is here. Come on down. Hi, there he is. Dennis, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been great to see you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Michelle. I appreciate you having me very much.
Well, I'm going to introduce you, Dennis Henson, just briefly here. I mean, I could go on for a long time about your bio. We could spend a lot of time on that, but I'll try to go through it quickly, and then we'll move in and we'll drop some more information throughout the show about you. I kind of call you Professor Dennis because you're a great teacher and you're a wonderful inspirational speaker as well. So
thank you.
Dennis, it's true. Dennis Henson is currently the founder and president of Vanguard Marketing and Investments Incorporated. He's a renowned leader and educator in both the real estate and personal growth industries. How do we make ourselves feel better about all the things I talk about at the beginning of the show? That's what he does. He's a speaker. And in addition to launching Vanguard Marketing and Investments, he's authored numerous books and courses on business and real estate investing. And you can find out more about his successful books by going on Amazon and also checking out his website. And we'll tell you about that in a little bit or after the show as well. So Dennis is dedicated, educated, inspiring countless individuals to achieve their goals both everywhere, not only in business, investments, real estate, but in stories about successful people that motivated them to become the people they are today and living happy lives and giving to others. And that's the key, I think. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed your book. It was really good, Dennis.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I always ask people, of course, the obvious, what was it that really charged you up and inspired you to write your book, Real Impact, Daily Inspiration?
Dr. Michelle, when I moved to Texas 35 years ago, I started investing in real estate here.
Yeah.
I've been investing for 25 years already, but when I got here, it was like I was a kid in a candy store because there's so much real estate
right
in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Right.
And I was having a lot of success as a real estate investor, but I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to visit real estate investor groups and meet other investors.
Sure.
But the Metroplex is so big. And
yeah. Right.
The closest real estate groups were over an hour away. If I wanted to go to Dallas, it's with traffic, it was an hour and a half. Or if I wanted to go to Fort Worth,
wonderful,
that was more than an hour.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I'll just start a group here in Arlington, which is kind of in the middle of the two. And so I started the AREA, the Arlington Real Estate Investors Association, and it was very successful. It grew. We had people coming from all over the Metroplex. We had speakers from all over the world that came and spoke.
Ah.
And I started teaching elite classes where it was advanced training for people who wanted to learn more. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to learn more. So when I taught private money, short sales, subject to, or any of the other classes,
Right.
or land trust, whatever, I had to really study hard because they were going to ask questions. So I really had to work hard, and it really made me a better investor.
Sure.
One day, one of the members came up to me and he said, Dennis, in about 3 weeks, I'm going to retire and I'm going to let you mentor me. I'll pay you, but I want you to mentor me to do what you do. And I said, well, Mike,
Yeah.
I'm not really very interested in doing that because I'm so busy. I have my real estate investing and I have the group and and the classes. He says, well, let me take you out to lunch and we'll discuss it. So right before I left, I told my wife, Norma, I said, I'm going to tell Mike I'm not going to do this because I'm not interested. So we ate after we finished,
Right.
Wrote like this.
Sure.
He pulled out a checkbook and handed it to me and he said, Dennis, fill this in. And I said,
what?
the amount? And he said, yes. And I smiled and I thought, okay, this will end this. He'll leave me alone. And there's, that's going to be the end of it. So I put a number there that I knew he wouldn't pay.
Uh-huh.
I gave it back to him and he took the check out and signed it. And without looking at it, handed it back to me.
Wow.
That's when I started teaching. So I started taking on students and I thought, well, if I'm going to take these students on, they're going to pay me this kind of money.
No kidding.
It better be pretty good. So I put together everything I knew and I really held them accountable. And my students started becoming so successful. They were so successful, I got a reputation. So I started being invited to real estate investor groups all over the United States and to go on podcasts, and I was doing speaking. So one day on a podcast, the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? There's all kind of mentors out here, but yours are just exceptional. Why? And I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form success habits, they will become successful. And then they said, what's the number one success habit? Can you share that with our audience? And I said, well, yeah, it's form the habit of reading something positive every single day that leads you toward your goal.
Right.
So at the end of that podcast, I thought that was really the right answer. Wouldn't it be great if there were some kind of an app or a book or something to help people form that goal? Right. Then it hit me. I had been collecting positive motivational books for 50 years.
Yes.
And short stories and poems and quotes. And I thought, I can put all these in a book. And then no matter what time slot of people have, because everyone's so busy, they can still form the habit of reading every day.
Right.
So if they have 5 minutes, they can read a poem. Sure. If they have 30 minutes, they can read a short story. If they get home, they're exhausted and they're just about to hit the bed. Right. They say, oh, I forgot to read. They can read a quote and think about it all night.
Yes, exactly.
So I thought, well, it'll take me 2 months to put this together. And I started working on it. And I worked on it every single day. It was my number one top priority. And 6 years later, 6 years later, this book was published.
Wow.
So
incredible.
It was a job.
It was a job. You had a huge.
Than I thought.
Yes, exactly. And it's so cool because it's in keeping with that whole concept that we do today as well of saying read or listen to. I encourage people to kind of read inspirational quotes or just a little bit of inspirational information that anybody may give to make you feel better or think about things, or if you're feeling down, but it also helps you relax and sleep. They have the whole mind and the eye connection with like EMDR therapy, things like that. But it's just relaxing, moving your eyes and reading on the page, just a few, like you said, if you have 15 minutes or whatever, you don't have to, but just finding an inspirational person that you want to read about. and or getting their wisdom. That is so important to do. And I can't believe you collected all those, and then 6 years later, that all came out in a really great book. So I thank you for sharing that story. That's really cool. So let's kind of get into, and I want to talk about some of the people that I read about in your book, and also who you highlighted who've become thought leaders, life-changing people, and what their humble beginnings were and how they sort of moved out of it and overcame their obstacles. But you emphasize the idea and the importance of mindsets in achieving goals. In your story, I was reading, and I'll just quote you. You said, more than 50 years of getting up after being knocked down have taught you that this simple habit that people can do, such as reading, can change people. So can you share a little bit about some pivotal moments besides the intro that you shared with us in your life that kind of made you feel off keel, and how you pulled yourself back out of those things?
Well, if you've been in business for 50 years, there's more times than you can remember that you've been knocked down over and over and over and over again. Yep. I think the pivotal moments in my life were not so much where things were going bad. It was just where things changed so much. It was like, there's a song that said, I feel the earth move under my feet. And I've had moments where the entire direction of my life changed. And that can be good, or that can be
right.
bad.
Right, sure.
It can go either way. But when I was in high school, I was a terrible student.
Oh, really?
Well, I had dyslexia, so I couldn't read very well.
That's tough. Yeah.
And I had, I was hyper. I didn't want to be in class. I wanted to be out doing things, and I felt imprisoned.
Yeah.
And my grades suffered.
Oh, sure.
I never took books home. I never did homework.
And it's
teachers,
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. The teachers were not happy with me because I was always stirring up, making noise, stirring up trouble, doing things. And so I was not their favorite student, and they were not my favorite people. And the truth is, I hated school. I didn't want to be there. I would tell my mother I was sick. I didn't want to go. So one day, we were poor. We didn't have any money. I never thought in my life about going to college. In fact, I didn't even know 5 people that had ever gone to college.
Yeah.
And it was not in my, in my plans.
Yeah.
Here were my plans. At the end of the year, summer was wonderful. Okay. And when I graduated from high school, it was going to be summer for the rest of my life. There was college wasn't even in the picture. And besides, I didn't have the money. I didn't have the grades. I couldn't possibly go to college. But one day I went to school, just a normal day, and they said, we're going to have assembly. And I thought, oh, assembly, that's wonderful. No class. We get to go to the auditorium. It's got to be better than class.
Yeah.
So we went. It was a college band. So they played their concert. That was pretty good. Then the band director turned around and said, well, we brought a treat for you. We brought our marching drum section, and they're going to put on a little exhibition. And I thought, oh, that's good. I'm in the band, and I'm a drummer, so I want to hear this because I'm interested in drums.
Sure.
And I don't know, did you ever see the movie Drumline?
Yes, that was cool.
Yeah, those stuff they were doing. But now that Drumline movie was made 40 years after what I'm talking about.
Right.
But these guys were doing the same thing back in the 60s that was done on that movie Drumline. And when I saw that, my mind just exploded. I thought, I want that. I want it more than anything. So I went to my band director and said,
they do. That's a good suggestion. They really need to check out Drumline. It's very inspirational. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I went to my band director and said, what do I have to do to get in that drum section? And he said, well, Dennis, you got to go to college. Then he said,
And you went,
with your grades, they're not going to let you in college.
right.
And I said, if I change my grades, can I get in that drum section? And he says, well, if you don't change your grades, you'll never get in the drum section. So from that point to the day I graduated, my grades went from D's and F's to A's and B's. And 3 years later,
Nice.
I was in Jacksonville State University, and the following year I was in the drum section, and the next year I was a section leader. So having a
Right.
goal, knowing what you want,
Right.
and being willing to do whatever it takes to get it,
Right.
that's life changing. That's
Right.
and one of the things about
Yeah.
this book is, in order to do the magic formula for the lamp to work, you have to set a goal. You have to know what you want, because how can you read something positive every day about your ultimate goal if you don't have an ultimate goal?
That's so true. And
Yeah.
and hence the picture of the lamp on the front of the book. It really kind of intrigued me. I went, oh, what's this about? When I got the book, it was, the magic lamp, right?
Right. If you go to realimpactbook.com, the very first link says the mystery of the lamp.
Right.
And it has a recording there, an audio recording
Yeah,
that tells
yeah.
you how the lamp works.
I love it. And that's the magic genie lamp. But it's all about our intentions
Exactly.
to focus and just really, and a lot of people come to me and they say, I don't know particularly what I want. So they have all these little bubbles of thought floating around in their heads. And maybe I'll do this, or maybe I don't know how to get started. I don't know. How would you suggest that people sort of begin getting started to find what they want in life, or
Okay.
what they want to do, even if they already have jobs and they're not thrilled or happy or not feeling well?
Dr. Michelle, everybody has a purpose in life. A lot of people don't do it, but they have a purpose. Think of it like this. How do ants know what to do? How do they know?
Yeah.
Because they do miraculous things. If
Yeah.
you study
Mhm.
ants,
Yes.
they're very strong.
Yes.
They build things.
Yeah.
Same way with bees. How do bees know what to do? Well, there's no school for bees. There's no school for ants. They just know. And we're people, we're a lot smarter than them, and that's the problem, because we don't listen.
That's right.
You have to. That's why meditation is so important. You have to listen, and you get these wonderful things called desires. Then people let their butts get in the way.
Yes.
They have the desire and they say, oh, I'd love to be that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but
I don't have the money, but I don't
Right.
have the connections. I don't have this. I don't have that. You got to get your butts out of the way. First of all, you got to be receptive to what your urges are, because they're gifts. And
Right.
then don't say but, say and I'm going to move in that direction.
yes.
And this book is one way to move in the direction. You read something positive every day to move you in that direction. And
Yes.
another thing it does is this. It's like a rudder on a boat.
Right.
You have to think of your direction every single day. It keeps you moving in
Right.
the right direction.
Yes. Right.
So this project was not about me selling a million books. I knew I wasn't going to sell a million books, but I want to help a million people. Now, that's easier than selling a million books.
Yeah.
So I give as many of them away as I can. In fact,
Yeah.
I'd like to give everyone that's watching right now a free copy. Is that okay?
Oh, that'd be awesome. I think people would really like that, because it's really an inspiration.
Well, I hope that they will go to realimpactbook.com and scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendee.
Perfect.
You click on that. You put in your name and your email. You won't be put on an email list, I promise. There's a link there that says that if you want to know when I write another book, you click that link. Otherwise, you don't
No advertisers will connect with you.
That's right. And so the download is instant. A lot of people miss it because you put in your name and your email, and bam, there's the download on your computer. You have to go up to this little arrow and click it, and there's the book.
Yep.
And so, somebody told me, well, if it's free, it's not worth anything. Well, air's free. Is that worth anything?
There you go. Right, exactly. And what is the email they need to send it to you?
Go to realimpactbook.com, scroll to the bottom, click on the link, put in your email address and your name, and you'll get the book right then. There's no wait. It's not tomorrow. It's instant. If you do it right now, you can have the book before we get off the podcast.
Oh, I love that, guys. So do that. And it's because the book's really interesting and it's good, and it's, Real Impact Daily Inspiration is what it's called. And like you said, as well, Dennis, everybody can sort of take their time. They don't have to read the whole book and, I've got to really read this book in 1 week. No, because there's so much material in terms of inspiration to go through. And so, I've interviewed over the last, over 17 years of having the talk show, countless inspirational authors and speakers and self-help book, people who've written these amazing self-help books. How does yours sort of differ from a lot of those other books?
This book's not like any of the others. It's far and away different. And in fact, if you go to Amazon and read the reviews, many of the people in the reviews say, I've never seen anything like this, because it's not a book that you pick up and read. In fact, if you read it from cover to cover, you probably wouldn't get much from it, because that's not what it's about.
Right.
It's about reading quality rather than quantity. You read till something impresses you, until something moves you, and then you contemplate that. Back in the 5th century, a group of monks created a thing called Lectio Divina, where they wanted to become closer to the scriptures. Right. And so with Lectio Divina, they would read a scripture silently, then they would visualize themselves as part of it, then they would read it out loud, and then for the rest of the day, they would contemplate what they read. That's what this book is about. It's just that. You want to read something of quality and then contemplate it so that it becomes a part of you.
Yes. And I love that because, throughout the book, I love your intro, by the way, talking about yourself and how you got into this and all of the quotes and famous, information about the famous people and thought leaders and influencers that you collected. But also the way it's laid out is there are stories about some very famous, and I don't mean actors or actresses, those too, but very well-known thought leaders, inspirational people who've helped so many people in this world. And we'll be talking about some of those people as well that I enjoyed reading about in the book. You talk about them and their stories and how they started out with issues, traumas, obstacles in their life, not the means to do anything really, and and I hate to say crawl their way up into doing, but you touch on some of those things that these people got and went through and persevered with. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then the rest of the book at the end, and I love that, there are quotes, famous quotes, and it's not just like the quote book. Confucius say, there is a Confucius in there, by the way, which I love. But, you have all these quotes from amazing historic thought leaders at the end of the book. My point to saying all that is the way I use your book is I vibed to certain quotes at the end of the book from people after reading the stories. And I copied them down for myself. And I relax. I do meditation as well as you. and I focus on the quote. It's a simple quote where I'll have it in my hand before I get into my meditation, and I'll focus on it. And you talked about the visualization, you talked about the intention, and that's what it's about with the monks. That it's about visualizing and using that positive quote and relaxing. And everybody has their own way of meditation. But I just wanted to share with you that's what sort of vibed with me in terms of using your book. And
Right.
Thank you for that.
And those quotes are not just quotes. Those are quotes that I heard the quote and I had to physically go and get a journal and write that down and save it.
Right.
And that's
Right.
literally 50 years of quotes that moved me. And they didn't go in the book unless they were powerful. I mean, they're really powerful quotes.
They are. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, if we could just kind of talk about some of the people who you write about, who are thought leaders and sort of their beginning. Some of my favorite, we talked about this before the show, but some of my favorite inspirational teachers. And I think it would be one of them is, he's very famous, Jack Canfield, the chicken soup guy.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about his backstory and how he overcame his obstacles to become the chicken soup for the soul guy?
Jack was doing motivational speaking, and he was successful at that. And he would use stories in his speeches. And after his speeches, a lot of people would come up and say, well, is there some place I can get those stories? I love those stories. Is there a book or something? Well, after hearing that about 1,000 times and having to tell the people no, he decided, well, I'm going to put together a book that I can take with me to my speeches. And when people ask, I'll say, here's the book. So he told his friend, Mark Victor Hansen, about what he was going to do. And Mark liked the idea so much, he said, well, I'd like to be part of this. And so they agreed that they were going to work together and collect 101 stories from all over the world. And so they came up with the stories and they put them together and they were happy with the very first book. But then they had the problem of, well, what are we going to name this book? And so they couldn't come up with a name. Then they decided that they would meditate for a week, for like a couple of hours a day. And then one day, as Jack was meditating, he saw this hand come down through the ceiling and wrote on a green board with a piece of chalk, chicken soup. So he met with Mark and he said, I don't know if this means anything, but here's what happened. And Mark said, doesn't mean anything to me either. Then he said, well, the only thing I can't think of is my grandmother used to make chicken soup, and she said, it'll cure anything that ails you. And so Mark Victor Hansen said, well, maybe that's it. Chicken soup for the soul.
Love it.
And they thought, whoa, man, that's what we'll call it. So they were excited about it, and they went to publishers. Well, back then, it's not like now you can't just upload it on Amazon. Everybody has it. It was different. You had to find someone to publish it and print it and to market it. So they presented it to publisher after publisher after publisher, and they all said, no one wants a book about short stories. What is chicken soup? What does that mean? Chicken soup. They got turned down over and over and over. And finally, they went to a convention, a publishers convention, where there were 1,000 publishers there. And for the next 3 days, they went from table to table being told, no, 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 no. They didn't give up. They finally found a publisher that did health products. And they worked a deal out with him where they had to guarantee 20,000 sales. They had to guarantee, they had to have 20,000 sales already set up before he would even publish the book.
Right. Yep.
That's not in the book, but that's what happened.
Right. Wow.
So then, when the book came out, and it was an instant success, in 2 years, it just sold 1 million copies. And now it's sold billions of dollars. The whole series are billions of dollars, but it didn't start out to be a simple task. It was they had to have
Sure.
a lot of initiative, and they had to get up after being knocked down so many times.
Very cool. Yes. So that's what was happening there on that. And, I love that story. And earlier we also talked about some of the famous actors,
Yes.
actresses. One of my favorites, I mean, people go, oh, he's not that great of an actor. I'm like, oh my God, he's amazing. Is Sylvester Stallone. I mean, I've met him before. He's a sweet guy, down to earth, a real good guy. And his latest series, Tulsa King, was great. I mean, he plays that rough and tough kind of gangster character. You write about his beginnings and how tough it was for him. Can you share a little bit about Sylvester Stallone's journey?
Well, Sylvester had a lot of things. He wanted to be an actor. He knew what he wanted. That was the number one top thing. He knew what he wanted, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get it.
Right.
However, he had a speech impediment. He wasn't
I know.
that good looking. He had tried to be, he'd been in a couple of movies that bombed. He was he had moved from New York to Los Angeles, which took all of his money to get there, so he would be closer to Hollywood.
Sure.
And he ran totally out of money, so much so that he was living in a bus station. He had a car, but he didn't have any gas. The car stayed parked. He slept in his car and in a bus station, and he showered in the YMCA. He actually kept his clothes in the car, and he slept in the bus station.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a dog, and he loved his dog more than anything, but he couldn't afford to feed it. He didn't have the money, so he decided, well, I've got to sell Butkus so that he won't starve to death. So I'll sell it to someone, they can feed him. Well, he did. He got $25, and he left with tears running down his eyes because he loved the dog so much.
Aww. He sold his dog. Oh, God.
Yeah. So then he was at a bar, and he saw this fight on the screen. You go to bars, and they have on the screen, Muhammad Ali was fighting the Bayonne Bruiser. And nobody expected the Bruiser to stay even one round because Ali was the world champion.
Yeah.
Well, the Bruiser, he didn't fight just one round. He stayed in there for 15 rounds, and he knocked Ali down, and he actually probably won the contest. It's a pretty famous contest. You can actually see it on YouTube. Sure. But because Ali was the world champion, you got to knock him out before you're going to win. No one's going to win. But that impressed Sylvester so much that he went home and he took a pen and paper and he wrote for 3 days. No sleep, he didn't have any food. So he just wrote for 3 days. Then he had an audition. He went to the audition, and it wasn't a part that he could fit. And he started to leave. And right before he got to the door, he thought, well, these producers are here. I'll tell them about my script. So he went back and he said, hey, guys, I've written a movie script. It's pretty interesting if if you'd like to see it. And to get rid of him, they said, oh, yeah, bring it by. We'll look at it.
Sure, we'll look at it. Right. Yeah.
Well, to their surprise, the next day he showed up with a movie script. And they read it and they loved it. They did. They really fell in love with it. And so they said, look, hey, we'll give you $350,000 for this.
Right.
And he said, okay, great, but I've got a star in it. I've got to be in it. And they said, well, no, we don't want you. We want a real star. We want Ryan O'Neal or, someone who's
Back at the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody who was like Clint Eastwood or somebody who was really
Now,
famous.
here's what took guts. Here's what really, he said, no, it'd kill me if this movie is successful and I'm not the star. I'm not going to do it. So
Wow.
they wanted it really bad. They kept negotiating with him. They finally decided, we'll give you $35,000 and a portion of the profits if there are any profits.
That's right. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
And he agreed to that. So out of the $35,000, he took $25,000 or $15,000 and bought his dog back. He had sold it for $25.
Oh, I love that
for
story.
$15,000 because they knew how bad he wanted it. And the
Now
dog's
that's
in
love.
the dog, yeah,
That's
the dog's
love.
in the movie. So
Cool.
the producers said, look, we are not going to put a lot of money in this because you're unknown. So you produce it. Here's $1 million. You go put it together and we'll see if it flies. Well, $1 million was not much money in the 70s to put a movie
Right.
together. I mean, that's all of
Right.
the actors, all of the scenes, all of the camera, everything. $1 million would go by just like that. So he used his family and friends. He got a couple of old actors who were retired to help him out. And he put the movie together with handheld cameras. And there were no takes. Every take was the thing. I mean, you didn't do it over and over. You just did it once, and that was it.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah.
They shopped it around Los Angeles, and people seemed to like it okay. So all of the producers in Hollywood came to a screening, and he was really nervous. And it was upstairs, and he went in, he sat down. And at the screening, he was looking around and no one had any reaction. They just watched the movie. There was no laughing, no, they weren't shocked at the fight scenes. They just watched it. And when it was over, everybody got up but him. And he knew he'd failed. The tears were dripping down his face. He was just defeated. So he finally mustered enough strength to get up out of his chair and walked through the doors. And as he started to descend the staircase, he thought, there's something strange. No one had left. So when the first person saw him, they started to clap.
Wow.
And as everybody else saw him, the ovation was so loud that it rang off the walls.
What a cool thing for him to just, what? I mean, he was probably really shocked.
Yeah. And that movie, Rocky, got 7 Academy Awards, and it's been voted one of the greatest movies of all time. But it had a backstory, and
that's a great story.
He knew what he wanted.
That's right,
and he was willing to fight to get it and give up.
That's exactly right. I mean, what a great story. And there's some other people too that I want to talk about because I mean they're just amazing. They're, I mean, so good. And I think that the moral to that is just kind of is find your passion. He wanted to be an actor. He was a darn good writer, and he wrote so many scripts actually after that. He was the producer, writer, so many other films. So people go, what? Sylvester Stallone did that? I mean, but people didn't realize that just the character that he was playing in those Rocky movies, he wasn't that dumb guy. He was a very intelligent, driven man. So it's have an intention, focus on it, keep going. Oh my gosh, the fact that he bought his dog back for $15,000 is just my heart, It's like, that's what we're talking about, putting out there in the universe of goodness and love. And he had good intentions to entertain people. That's what he wanted to do, and tell stories and to help others, So, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Exactly.
It's about how can you help others and, how can you really make an impact on the world, and also feeling really good about accomplishing Your purpose. How do we find our purpose? As you said, meditate, think about it, go within, have quiet moments. What do I really like? When you're in meditation, when you're in that whatever theta brainwave, as you know, or that relaxed, things come to you. Things will come to you. Ask God, ask the universe to bring you this information.
Right. Once you determine what your life purpose is and you start moving in that direction, the entire universe starts moving in your direction.
Yes.
Twice as fast as you're moving. So it's I don't know. I'm writing a book called The Laws of Nature for Success. And there's a lot of excitement about it. I got to get it finished because so many people are wanting to read it. But it takes you from where you are to where you want to be through the laws of nature. If you follow these laws, it's just it's smooth sailing. But if you go against them, which most people do, because they don't know what they are. It's easy to break a law if you don't know what it is. So people struggle in life because they're fighting against natural laws.
Sure.
It's like a natural law is gravity. How much luck are you going to have trying to fight against gravity? You have to really struggle hard.
Well, right.
Even to leave the Earth's gravity is a struggle. But when you look at some of these other planets and heavenly bodies, the gravity there is so strong, you wouldn't have a chance.
Yes.
But if you're working with the laws of nature, it's like a sailboat that can go out, and even though the wind is blowing toward you, they've got their sails set in such a way that they're moving in the direction that they want to go.
Yes.
But that's what you have to do personally.
That's right.
You have to set your sails and work through the obstructions.
Yes. And the obstructions, like you said, are all of the get your butts out of the way. Yeah, but I can't because, like, Sylvester Stallone did. I mean, but I can't. I don't feel well. Do the best you can do every day. Go inward and try to find what really, fuels you up, what makes you feel good. And also, you mentioned, don't let that mind self-defeat you and start, but I can't do that because that's not a really great thing. Or other people will judge me if I want to be a famous artist or whatever. I don't want people to judge me because my passion is not popular. No, you can't beat yourself up or judge yourself for what's stirring within you, right?
Exactly. Right. If you hear yourself talking negatively, I call it killing ants. I have every morning I have these affirmations, and one of my affirmations is, I'm going to kill ants today. And ants is any negative thought sequence.
There you go.
So when you feel yourself thinking negatively about someone or about yourself or about your business or about anything, you just stop. And the antidote for that is gratitude. You can't be sad, or you can't be depressed, or you can't be unhappy if you're being grateful.
That's right.
I call it the G vitamin. You take the G vitamin and it makes you feel better. People like you. You live longer. You don't have heart disease. You're going to be a lot happier and live a happier life if you take the G vitamin every day and kill those ants.
That's right. That's exactly right. I love that. And I encourage everybody. And people go, well, I just am so depressed and I'm so anxious and I don't know. I don't have any money and I'm trying to get a job and I don't have a relationship. And what can I be grateful for? It's like, well, maybe the first thing you can do when you wake up is say, I'm grateful for another day or another breath or my consciousness.
Right. When I speak this, you brought this to mind. When I speak, one of the first things I say is, when I was a kid, I watched this TV show called The Millionaire.
Right.
And John Beresford Tipton would give Michael Anthony a check for $1 million, and he would go give it to somebody, and it had a string attached that they couldn't tell anybody.
Right.
And I said, well, everybody close your eyes and think about this. What if I'm here today to give you $1 million? How many people would take it? And they all raise their hand.
Right.
And then they put their hand down and say, well, there's one string I forgot to tell you. There's one string attached, and that's this. Today would be your last day on earth. There'll be no tomorrow. You'll have $1 million,
Right.
but you won't have it tomorrow. Now, how many want the deal? No hands go up.
Yep.
And I'll say, when you wake up in the morning, are you going to be grateful for this day that you just paid $1 million for?
There you are.
Did you lose
I think
me?
you just went silent for a minute.
Okay.
I lost you for a minute, but I think we're good.
Okay.
Yeah. So you said, are you going to be grateful for the $1 million for the one day? Go ahead and finish that sentence.
Well, when you wake up the next morning, are you going to be grateful for the day that you just paid $1 million for?
Right.
And that's true. Most people, I mean, there's no limit to the amount. It could be $1 trillion. Nobody would want it if tomorrow they were going to be dead.
Well, exactly.
Your days are valuable.
Right. So what really matters is being aware, being alive, being conscious, and grateful for just, I have a funny thing is I say, thank you, universe, for letting me wake up another day.
Right.
It's kind of like, now what am I going to do with it? Oh, okay, right. I have my list, or I have my reading, inspirational reading stuff that I'm going to do, at the end of the day. So that's, by the way, I want to reinforce that you should pick up this book. It's Real Impact, Daily Inspiration by my guy right here, Dennis J. Henson. And Dennis, let's offer that again, a free copy of your book, and how they can go about getting that to my viewers and listeners today.
Go to realimpactbook.com, scroll to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, and click on that, put in your name and email, and you're going to be surprised, because as soon as you do that, it automatically sends you the book, and it's a download. So you have to go up to your little download arrow and click on that, and there's the book.
There you go.
There are some other links on there that you might want to check out. The first link is The Mystery of the Lamp. And then there's one that says Help the Children. It's a charity link where if you click on that, it's a GoFundMe where I'm giving these books to children in disadvantaged communities, to libraries, to schools that don't have high budgets, to community centers, to elderly facilities, where nursing homes, where people are. People in nursing homes really love this because they relate so much to the stories, and they can discuss them with each other.
Yes.
So it's a wonderful gift for someone like that, or for someone who's graduating from high school or college. The deluxe edition is so nice. If you give this to someone that's graduating from high school or college, they'll keep it forever.
They will.
Yeah, they'll put it in their bookshelf, and 30 years from now, they'll read what you said about them, and they'll remember you. So it's a great legacy gift, and it can change their life. I think when you read it, you'll realize that this is a life-changing book. And
I agree.
It didn't just happen. I didn't just start collecting all those things. I had no idea that I was going to do a book. I didn't collect all those things for 50 years. It was kind of like the ant. How does an ant know what to do? Well, they don't. They just do what they feel. And that was what I felt. And it turned into this. And
that's beautiful.
It's going to help a lot of people.
I think it will.
Yeah.
Again, inspirational stories about people who are thought leaders. I mean, everybody's in there that you talk about and that you collected information and famous quotes of, and their backstories and how they overcame their obstacles. Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Conrad Hilton, the Hershey family, as we discussed, Jack Canfield, so many people, and of course Sylvester Stallone, so many people that overcame challenges and what inspired them to keep going. It's a real upper. If you have depression or anxiety, this book will help you with that as well. Real impact, daily inspiration, Dennis Henson. Not only does it have those stories, but also all of the quotes, the famous quotes at the end of the book. And these are really good ones. And you can use those as well, as affirmations for yourself every day. I better get going. I think we're almost out of time. Ooh, we are. All right. Dennis, thank you so much for joining me on the couch today. It's been great having you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Michelle. I appreciate you having me. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you're a lot of fun. You're a great guy. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is Dr. Michelle Cohen. And as I always say, take care of yourself first and you'll be great for others. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
You're listening to On the Couch with Dr. Michelle, right here on LA Talk Radio.